sent over this podcast, and it's a deep dive into this MrBeast video. I helped 2,000 people walk again.
Mm-hmm.
And even for MrBeast, that's a crazy idea.
It is a big one.
Yeah, so we're gonna dive into this whole thing.
Yeah.
But I think the first thing that jumps out is just how big this is.
Yeah. It's just the scale of it.
The scale of it.
When you think about it, most of his videos are, giving away $100,000,
Right.
giving away a car, having some kind of crazy competition. This is actually, really impacting people's lives.
Right, like this isn't just entertainment.
Exactly.
This is like
life-changing stuff.
Yeah. So what were some of the things that stood out to you in the podcast as they were sort of unpacking this whole project?
Well, the first thing that really stood out was just the logistics of it all.
Okay.
I mean, think about it. 2,000 people,
Yeah.
all needing some kind of medical intervention.
Yeah.
That's a lot of doctors, a lot of equipment, travel, all that kind of stuff.
So is it like they were doing this all over the place, or was
No, yeah, they were all over the globe. I mean, the podcast mentioned they had teams in like Africa, South America, all over.
Wow.
So it wasn't just, a one location kind of thing.
So like how did they even choose these people? Was it like a lottery or something?
Well, they touched on that in the podcast, and it sounds like it was a pretty rigorous process. They had this whole application system.
Okay.
And then they had doctors, reviewing cases, trying to figure out who would benefit the most.
Oh, so it wasn't just like a random...
No, they were really trying to make sure that the people they were helping were, really going to benefit from it.
So this is serious.
Very serious.
This isn't just like a for the views kind of thing.
No, I think this is probably the most impactful thing he's ever done.
Yeah. And the other thing that blows my mind is the money.
Oh yeah, $12 million.
$12 million. That's insane.
It's hard to even comprehend that kind of money.
I know. And the podcast said he paid for everything.
Everything, medical costs, travel, even like support for the families while they were getting treatment.
Yeah. That's just, I mean, it's heartwarming, but it's also like, how does he even,
Well, like, where does that money come from?
Yeah. And is this sustainable? Like, is he going to be able to keep doing this kind of thing, or is this just like a one-off?
Well, that's one of the big questions that the podcast was asking. Is this the future of philanthropy, or is this just a MrBeast spectacle?
Yeah. I mean, it's not like every YouTuber has $12 million just lying around to give away.
Exactly. So it's an interesting question. What happens next?
But what I find interesting, too, is that he doesn't like wait around for donations or anything. He just like goes out and does it.
Yeah, he's not asking for money. He's using his own money.
It's his own money.
Which is kind of unheard of in the philanthropy world.
Yeah, usually it's like, donate here and we'll help this cause.
Right, exactly. He's just like, I'm going to do this and I'm going to use my own money to do it.
Yeah, and people are responding to it. I mean, the podcast was talking about how the video blew up online.
Oh, yeah. Millions of views in like the first few hours.
It's crazy.
And the comments were just filled with people, saying how much it touched them.
Yeah, I saw a lot of people saying it made them cry.
Yeah, it's a real tearjerker.
And like not even in a manipulative way. It's just like genuine emotion.
Exactly. It's just seeing people, get their lives back. It's hard not to be moved by that.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's not just the people in the video that are being impacted. I mean, the podcast talked about how fans were like analyzing the video, trying to find all these hidden details.
Oh, yeah. They were pointing out all these little things that most people probably miss.
Like what kind of stuff?
Like there was this one shot where you could see a reflection of one of the doctors and people were trying to figure out who it was.
Really?
Yeah. And then there was this whole thing about the music they used and how it tied into the theme of the video.
Wow. So people are really like digging deep.
Oh, yeah. It's like a whole community of MrBeast detectives out there.
That's awesome. And it just shows you how much people are engaged.
Exactly. It's not just passive viewing. It's like they're all part of this whole experience.
And that's what makes him so different, I think. He's not just entertaining. He's like building this whole community.
Yeah, he's creating something bigger than himself.
Which I think leads perfectly into the next part of our deep dive, because the podcast also talked about what might be next for MrBeast.
Oh, yeah. And some of the theories were pretty wild.
Like, what are we talking here?
Well, let's just say if you thought helping 2,000 people walk again was ambitious,
Yeah.
you haven't seen anything yet.
So what kinds of things were they thinking? Like, where do you even go from here?
I mean, honestly, it's hard to imagine topping this, right? Like, helping 2,000 people walk again, that's
a tough act to follow.
It is. But they were throwing out some pretty crazy ideas. Like, remember when he did that whole Squid Game recreation?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, who would have thought to do that? And then he pulls it off like it's nothing.
Yeah. So are we thinking like even bigger stunts?
Mm.
Like more elaborate productions?
Maybe. I think they were kind of hinting at a different direction, though. Like maybe tackling a global issue.
Global issue.
Yeah, like something like poverty or climate change. Something with even bigger stakes.
Now that you mentioned it, there was that part in the Walk Again video where he's like talking about wanting to make a difference on a larger scale.
Right, exactly. It's like he's already thinking about what's next.
Planting those seeds.
Yeah, and maybe it's not even about the stunts anymore. Maybe it's about the message he's trying to send.
You know what's interesting is that the podcast was talking about how people are starting to see him as like a modern day Robin Hood.
Robin Hood?
Yeah, like taking from the rich and giving to the poor. Yeah. Except in this case, it's his own money.
Right. It's like he's his own benefactor.
Exactly. And I think that's what resonates with people. It's not just about the money, it's about the intention behind it.
It's like he's saying, look, you don't have to be a billionaire to make a difference.
Yeah, and he's doing it in a way that's entertaining and engaging. It's not your typical preachy save the world message.
It's like he's making philanthropy cool.
Yeah, like a superhero for the digital age.
Exactly. And I think that's why he's so effective. He's not just throwing money at problems. He's actually inspiring people to get involved.
Yeah, and he's showing that you can have fun and do good at the same time.
Right, like it doesn't have to be this boring, serious thing.
Okay, so we've talked about the logistics, the money, the fan reaction. What do you think is like the big takeaway from all of this?
That's a good question. I think for me, it's that we all have the power to make a difference. It doesn't have to be on the scale of MrBeast.
Right, like we don't all have millions of dollars to give away.
Exactly, but we can all do something, whether it's donating to a cause we care about or volunteering our time or just being kinder to each other.
Just like that ripple effect.
Yeah.
One small act of kindness can have a huge impact.
Yeah, and I think MrBeast is a great example of that. He's showing us what's possible when you combine creativity, compassion, and a whole lot of hustle.
So as we wrap up this part of the deep dive,
Right.
what's the one question you want our listener to think about?
Here's one. If entertainment and philanthropy are becoming more and more intertwined, what responsibility do content creators have to use their platforms for good?
It's like, are they obligated to do this stuff? Or can they just make funny videos and...
Right, and the line gets blurry.
Like, where does entertainment end and responsibility begin?
It's a good question, and honestly, I don't think there's an easy answer.
Yeah, I mean, not every creator has MrBeast money.
Right, exactly.
So does that mean, like, if you're a smaller creator, you don't have a responsibility to?
I don't think it's about the size of your platform or how much money you have.
Okay.
It's more about recognizing the influence you have.
Right, because even if you have a small following, those people are still looking up to you.
Exactly, and they're listening to what you have to say.
So it's about being mindful of that.
Yeah, and I think MrBeast gets that. He's not perfect, but he's definitely using his platform to try to make a positive impact.
And whether you agree with his methods or not, you can't deny that he's doing some good.
Right, and that's what's important.
Yeah, so I guess the big question for our listeners, like, what can they do?
Right, like what's their role in all of this?
Yeah, because we've talked about MrBeast and his crazy projects, but what about the everyday person?
I think the takeaway here is that everyone has the power to make a difference in their own way. It doesn't have to be about giving away millions of dollars.
Right, it can be something small, like volunteering at a local charity.
Exactly, or even just being kinder to the people around you.
Yeah, just spreading a little bit of positivity.
And I think that's what MrBeast is ultimately trying to do. He's trying to inspire people to be better.
To think outside themselves.
Exactly, and to see that even small actions can have a big impact.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the world of MrBeast, what's the one thing you want our listener to walk away with?
I think it's that there's still hope, In a world that can often feel very negative.
Yeah, like there's a lot of bad stuff going on.
There is, but there are also people out there who are trying to make things better.
People like MrBeast.
And countless others who are using their platforms and their voices to make a positive impact.
And that's something to celebrate.
Absolutely.
So if you're out there listening and you've been inspired by what you've heard today, don't be afraid to go out and make a difference yourself.
Even if it's just a small act of kindness, you never know who you might inspire.
That's right. And as MrBeast would say, stay legendary,